Holy, this is a long light. So I'm off to the dealer to see if they have a manual cam chain tensioner. That noise I've made at least 1 or 2 videos about is still there, and if I can fix it with a manual tension, I'll do it. I like getting this sort of thing from the dealer because they have a backup for any issues, as long as it's not crazy expensive. We'll see. Gonna change the oil. We just did a track day. I change my oil like once every 6 months or so. Every couple of thousand miles, especially if I'm doing a couple of track days. So if it's not anything track, I'm not pushing the bike that bad, then I would just fall back in the regular intervals. But now this thing's been through 3 of those days and other road miles, so I'm using the Royal Purple oil. I forget the crazy combination of numbers and letters that designate the oil use, but it's Royal Purple motorcycle oil. It's the good stuff. I know, I could probably spend 20 bucks on the oil. Use that Rotella stuff that I've used in the past. It's such a psychological thing, it really is. I mean, the reality is, how many people ride these bikes for several 100,000 miles, and the other reality is, tell me somebody who's proven in a comparison that it affects engine life. If some of you guys can give me data on that, then I'll feel less guilty about all the friggin' money I spend on oil. So, yeah, that these DRCs, Pirelli DRCs are doing a good job for me too. I was at Auto Club Speedway a few weeks ago, and I posted a video about that, and went to Chuckwalla this past week. I put up a little bit of footage attached to this video as well, if I can get it back, because I gave some of my memory card. I don't know if I'll see that thing again. But yeah, they're holding up really well. The same holds true. I run similar pressures on those in the Q3s. I was running 31 front, 29 rear, cold. And they felt really good. I had a lot of confidence. I didn't try 1 or 2 PSI down. I bet that would feel just fine as well. On the Q3s, I was running 2830 or 2729, front with the higher pressure number. Just because they're a stiffer tire. The road pressures are quite different. I run higher pressures in the road with these DRCs because I feel like I have no feel with those Q3s in the road. So many people use those things. I mean, it's fine for a highway and, you know, regular, but when you start getting into those canyons, man, I just don't have a lot of confidence in those things. They're so stiff with the higher pressures. You get into the high 30s, 37s, 38s. I feel like I'm riding on rocks. So if I pause awkwardly like I did just now, it's because I'm trying to listen to this navigation thing. On the Harley, I got a handlebar mount for the phone. The pace and the positioning, just, you know, I go slower in that thing. And, oh, come on, guys. So slow in that thing. And, the positioning is kind of right in my face. I don't have to look down. And this bike is just different, man. Looking down on a phone, I mean, it's one thing if you live in the middle of nowhere. It's another thing if you're in a busy part of the world. See, this sketch place to split. Don't do it. If I get hit, it's totally my fault splitting over here. See, everyone gets all anxious because the right side of the road, you get people coming on. Some of these people in this lane want to get off, so they're going through their own panic attack right now. Will I get up my exit? Will I miss my exit? Is someone cutting in front of me? I have to be aggressive. I'm not getting stepped on by this Corolla, Camry, truck, whatever. All that's going on the right side. stay left. Or accept your fate. Mechanical tensioner, I had one guy at the other dealer I bought the bike at. I just live kind of far from that place right now, but he was one of the managers there, and he told me for his, he just got the manual tensioner and it solved the issue. And that's one of the things, this bike, I mean, I love so much about it, but that the noise is just not appealing. I can't say that it's not a deal breaker, but it takes away from the experience. Even at idle, that's when I hear it the most. Even right now with the earplugs in, it drowns out that clatter. But there's just something about hearing the thing idle before my earplugs are in that bother me. It feels like there's like a bunch of silverware rattling around in my engine. A bag of silverware. And for what the bike does and its potential, it takes away from the appeal. It's part of my practicing safer splitting techniques. Oh yeah, I rode the Yamaha MT-10 when I was at that track day. But when we were there, Yamaha was there and offering free rides. You know, it's interesting, they offer these bikes for free rides as if they're trying to lure people that drive different machines. I mean, you have to trail somebody on the tracks, but they'll move. You have to go in the easy group, and they basically go, the guys that are riding in front of you are much more skilled than I am. So as fast as I go, they'll go. So they don't limit the speed, which is nice because you get a real feel for the bike. They feel you on their tail, they just speed up and take it to a different level. And they smoke my ass. But when they're con, they slow down again. So what I was getting at is the bikes they offer, the specifications on them are not super attractive. For example, my friend bought his BMW S1000R. It's his first time taking it on the track. And he wanted to ride the R1 because he sees it as one of the biggest competitors to the BMW S1000R, and it certainly is. And you know, there's so much. I mean, all those bikes are just nuts. Anything in that class is nuts. But he was hearing about it, so he was curious about riding it. And the only R1 they had there was the S. You know, the one that doesn't have the quick shifter, and I'm not sure what else it doesn't have, but it's not maximally spec'd out. So even just with the lack of a quick shifter, you know, why would you bring that bike there? If someone has a quick shifter, automatically it's a different experience, and probably an inferior one. Especially if you get used to using that on the track. And why would you bring the S model? Bring the super model, bring the M. And if you don't bring the M, then bring the next spec down. If you're wondering about people crashing expensive bikes. If you're really trying to lure people. And the same thing happened to me with the FZ10. I called it MT10 because it's the same damn thing, but I don't know exactly what model it is, but I don't think we really have much in terms of models. I know Europe has the racier version with the better suspension, and they probably have some extra electronics on it as well, and I think that would probably be a better competitor to the S1000RR, because this thing likes the track. You know, even on the road, it angers you because, sorry for the awkward pause, directions, because you know, it wants to jump in. It really wants to jump into corners, and it wants to go nuts. I have got to get away from the air gas. Got to get away from you, man. And the reason why I'm harping on this so much is because sorry, directions. It's because when I rode the FZ10, it just felt soft. You know, I can say as a standout feature, two features that stand out superior to this bike would be for road comfort. For me, I'm 6'2", got longer legs. As soon as I hopped down that thing, it felt like an armchair. My legs were much more extended. It was more of an upright position, and it was super comfortable. I just felt like I wanted to go on a tour and just not stop for several thousand miles. That's what it made me feel. So right off the bat, I'll say, from a price perspective and comfort perspective, if you don't plan on going to the track, you know, more than a couple, like once or twice a year, automatically just a comfort factor, and the pricing factor is something to consider getting that FZ10. The other thing I noticed immediately was the noise, the sound. It has that cross-plane, like, mean, grunty, low-end bark. I love it. I love the way it sounded. Now, my buddy, where's BMW? And why don't they paint the lanes around here? My buddy was in a different situation. He has the R, and I know it's not the same exhaust as this, but it does something a lot better than this. But he preferred the R sound, which I'm a little bit surprised about. Where the hell do I park my bike around here? But to me, by far, I preferred the FZ10 sound. Definitely. It was I just love the sound of that thing. So those two things. Now the biggest thing for me on the track was basically suspension. And the guys, they had it, what mode they had? They had it in standard mode. That's their policy. They standardize you. Just fine, you can standardize me. So I didn't have the crazy mode, but I know the suspension, from what they told me, in the model I had, it didn't change. And it didn't make any difference. And the thing, it just wallowed. It was soft. I felt like I was perched up too high. Center of gravity was higher, which made it more comfortable. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in the corners. It's a different bike too. You could account for that. You have to get used to things. But the feedback was very different. And much more wallowing. And just more insecurity on the track. So it's just, to me, the version they saw in America is just less of a track machine. So that's that. I'll check in with you after I get out of this place. Alright, so we don't have it. No manual cam chain adjuster. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I walk in that place, you just want to buy a bike. It's completely irrational. Same thing at the Harley dealership or any dealership I've been into. It's always something I want to buy. Not seriously, but you know, it's just like almost like an instinct. You love these things. You could rationalize any reason why. I love some of the reasons why people say they have to buy a new motorcycle. It's like it's as if it's a big need, an absolute need. If they don't do it, someone's going to get hurt. I mean, there probably are some cases, but it's pretty funny to listen to the reasons why people buy bikes. So another thing I wanted to mention was those track gloves I talked about. This Dainese full metal track gloves, and how stiff they were. When I first put them on my first ride, they still felt very stiff. And even the second ride, I feel like the throttle was grabbing. This guy coming into my lane? What is he doing? I feel like the throttle was grabbing. Oh, what's wrong with people and making turns? Like, does don't have GPS nowadays? I thought like the GPS in the phones would get rid of the people like searching as to when to turn and not trying to turn into you, but it seems like it's only made it worse. Technology increases, and so does ignorance along with it, apparently. So basically, they broke in. I mean, they feel, and I'm not saying I paid a lot of attention to them when I was riding, but that's the whole point. You know, if I'm not paying attention to them, they must have broken in well. I didn't think about the gloves or the sensitivity I had on the throttle, the brakes, or whether or not I felt my hand was sticking on the throttle. I didn't have any of those sensations, and I frankly didn't think about it, so I think that's supportive of the fact that they were just fine.